This is Dave with the follow-up video that I just put out last week. The video on where can you hunt when you move to a new state. And so in that video, I came to a couple decisions, and one of them was to look for a piece of property owned. And so right now in the next clip, you'll see a segment of this video. You'll see where I walk through that decision process and all the thoughts that went into it. And let me say that the decision to purchase land is it's a serious thing, and so you got to be prepared and thoughtful about that. And in my career, I did set aside money to do this, and so this comes to a conclusion of a thoughtful process that took many years to get there. And one of the thoughts that I had is, yeah, sure, during retirement, this give me a place to hunt and spend some time on, but also, what would it mean to my family? I mean, right now, my sons or my daughters are really interested in hunting. Maybe they will be one day, but they're not right now. But maybe their children will be, and so this would be a great place to spend some time with their grandfather. And so, looking forward to that. If that comes to fruition, or if not, it's fine. But at least it should be a good investment, and something that will pass along from one generation to the next. Or if they choose to sell it when I'm gone, then the money for it. As the old saying goes, investing in land's usually never a bad idea. And so you'll see in the next segment, I walk through my thoughts and in how to choose a piece of hunting property. So next thing you'll see is that segment.
So, follow up from the previous video that I did, or vlog on, what are my options for hunting. So it came down to own was my number one, and then government property would be number two. So given that I have set aside money and do want to make an investment in hunting property, which property to buy? And so this is what I'm going to go over here is the, near the end of the process. Initially, what I did was a broad spectrum look in the area where I'm living for property that basically empty lots of, I looked at 10 plus acres, and everything from whitetail properties to realtor.com to Zillow, and all the different programs or apps out there, and would try to see what is available. And I spent a lot of time weeding through all that, and through all that, I came down to 4 possible pieces of property. And for here, we're just going to call them property A, B, C, and D. And so they're all in Tennessee, and you can tell as we go through the criteria, you'll get a sense of why I chose these properties. Start with, I have a budget, set a budget of $50,000. So it doesn't sound like a lot. You're like, some people go, that's not a lot, for hunting property, but it all depends. I think you can still do pretty good out in different areas if you spend the time looking, and it kind of proved right in this. So 50,000 was my budget, and here's the properties and what I evaluated them on. So, and I did not weight any of them. So, meaning that each of the criteria was of equal value. Price meant no more to me than location versus huntability. They all meant the same value of importance. So price was the first thing I evaluated on, then location, huntability. So that is, I'm in my 50s. I'm not a young man, so how accessible is it for me to hunt? Can I drag a deer out of it? Are there trails broken on it? All those kind of things. What is my neighborhood like? Is it is it going to be a neighborhood in 10 years because you can see urban growth around it, or is it pretty good chance it's still going to be woods? And so that's why that's, to me, was important. What's its size, and what's the future value? Meaning that, sure, I'll hunt, and maybe I'll be fortunate and I can get 20 years of hunting out. I'm 55, so 20. Maybe I can hunt until I'm 75. I hope so. That'd be great. If I can, that's awesome. But if not, what's the future use of this property? Maybe my family wants to sell it, or maybe one of my kids want to put a house on it. So does it have a future value? So given those, each of the properties, I assign a score. So 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest desirability, 10 being the greatest, or 1 being bad, 10 great. So let's look at each one of them. So property A has a price of $33,600. And so for me, that's pretty significantly below my budget of $50,000. So I scored that an 8. Downside a little bit, it's 81 miles from the area that I plan on settling in Tennessee. So scored that a 5. Now 81 seems like a lot of miles, but when you spend your life commuting to DC, 81 miles is nothing. So so I gave it a 5. Huntability. So here's a piece of property. It's rolling hills and with flats, and it's heavily wooded. So 80% of it's wooded. It has some logging trails and some clear-cut areas, but they're all overgrown. So it's not really that hunter ready this year, but there's potential, a really good potential for next year. So I scored that a 7. What are the neighbors? Across the street, it's a street that's got some sporadic houses on it. So kind of across the street is a house, but on either side are woods. One side is a farm that is all wooded, and they have some food plots. But they said the neighbor across the street said they haven't used it in a while and don't hunt it anymore. And then on the other side is property that's woods, and the person who bought it plans to hunt it. So for hunting, so that's, to me, I thought that was really good. So it scored a 9. What's its size? 23.2 acres. So I scored that 6. Hunting, you always want more acreage, right? So 6, it's not bad. Future value, it's strategic. It's really nicely located, this piece of property. So it could easily put a house on it, and I think it could be very desirable. So I scored it an 8. So that's an overall 43. So property B, 38.5. So price is pretty good there as well. So I gave it an 8. It's also 81 miles, so I gave it a 5. It has rolling hills and flats, and it's 80% wooded, so it gets a 7. So it has neighbors currently storing stuff on this piece of property. There's a landfill right across the street from it, a huge landfill. And it appears to me that it's already being hunted. So I think you would have to navigate through getting clear to the people hunting on it that now it's in new hands and somebody else owns it. And so I think there could be some real challenges with people who currently use it. So I gave that a 3. It is 40.8 acres, which is huge. Plus, I gave that an 8. The future value, so it's right across the street from a landfill, and that's not going anywhere. So its only use is for hunting. You're not going to put a house on it. At times it reeks. So score that a 3. But deer don't care what it smells like. So for hunting, if it's only for hunting, it's ideal. So I scored that a 34. Property C, it's 35.9, and so it also scores an 8. It's 24 miles away, so it's pretty not bad, distance. So I scored that a 7. It is on the top of. It's actually like owning the top of a mountain. So it's ridge top. There's no current accessibility. It has some trails, but they're way overgrown. In fact, nobody's actually been on this property for years. So some real challenges there. So I gave that a 3. So you hear my dogs barking. Letting you know somebody drove by our RV. So anyway, gave the ridgetop a 3. Neighbors, so it's got woods and a timber company. So you're pretty isolated. I don't really see that changing, so I scored that high, gave that a 9. Because there's no real urban growth out there at all. It is 42 acres, so it's pretty good size, scored that an 8. It has great views and a great spot for a house, gave that a 7. So overall, 42. The last piece of property that made the cut is it's right below my budget, 49.6. So it scored a 5 there. It is, again, 24 miles. It's actually almost a neighbor to this property. So it scored that a 7. It's got some steep hills, but it's very huntable. There's trails that are broken on it, but also kind of like this property up here, somebody's been hunting it, and you can tell. And so it's not the current owner, because the current owner doesn't live in the state. So that's could be a challenge. But I think it's much more easily resolved than this property. So I scored it a 7. It's neighbors, so it's houses to on the north side of the property is all houses. On the south side is a timber company, and on the east and west is timber. So I scored it a 7. The main reason why I scored it a 7 is because nobody's going to use this property for anything but hunting, because it's landlocked and it's got power lines going through. So I scored a 7. Its size is 31 acres and scored that a 7 as well. It's pretty decent size. Now, here's the downside. So huge power lines running right through the center. Now, good news to that creates some natural areas to put food plots and stuff, but it's really one-use property. You can pretty much only hunt with it. So scored it a 5. I do think it's more usable than the one next to the landfill, because it does have a nice easement running through it, where if somebody was wanting to, you could go up to the one side of the property and put a house up on top of a ridge looking over, and it is to the it's not directly under power lines, it's off centered from it, so it is possible to do it. So I gave it a 5. Anyway, 38. So for me, on my research, it really came down to this property A being the one that is most desirable. Although it's a little bit less size, the future value really set it apart. And this, for me right now, it's very long term. It'll be very huntable, because there's no mountains and stuff. I can drag a deer pretty much from anywhere off of this property if I had to. And also the fact that all my neighbors are pretty much going to be people who use it for hunting. And so I don't have to worry about urban sprawl. But if I wanted to, I could put a house on it in the future, or my kids could. And so it has that going for it. It's only maybe 10 minutes from the Kentucky River. So I thought that was a plus too. But it's not in the floodplain. So that was a plus as well. So all those things, that scored a 43. So that's the property I went with. All right. So the next video you'll see is be the first video where we actually get head out to the property and spend a little time working on it.